Welcome to Dawn Vibes Yoga. Thank you for joining me for another Read With Me video. Today we are reading Chapter 2 of Thich Nhat Hanh's Being Peace. If you haven't already, grab yourself a cup of tea and get somewhere cozy so you can listen. If you'd like to follow along, as always, I have a link to this book in the description box below. However, if you notice, that is going to look a little bit different than my copy that I have right here because I got this from a secondhand store and the only one that I could find on Amazon is the one that I linked below. I'm pretty sure they're exactly the same. The one that I offered to you in the link, however, just has an introduction that this one doesn't. Alright, let's get started. Chapter 3, The Three Gems. Many of us worry about the situation of the world. We don't know when the bombs will explode. We feel that we are on the edge of time. As individuals, we feel helpless, despairing. The situation is so dangerous, injustice is so widespread, the danger is so close. In this kind of situation, if we panic, things will only become worse. We need to remain calm to see clearly. Meditation is to be aware and to try to help. I like to use the example of a small boat crossing the Gulf of Siam. In Vietnam, there are many people called boat people who leave the country in small boats. Often, the boats are caught in rough seas or storms. The people may panic and the boats can sink. But if even one person aboard can remain calm, lucid, knowing what to do and what not to do, he or she can help the boat survive. His or her expression, face, voice, communicates clarity and calmness, and people have trust in that person. They will listen to what he or she says. One such person can save the lives of many. Our world is something like a small boat. Compared with the cosmos, our planet is a very small boat. We are about to panic because our situation is no better than the situation of the small boat in the sea. You know that we have more than 50,000 nuclear weapons. Humankind has become a very dangerous species. We need people who can sit still and be able to smile, who can walk peacefully. We need people like that in order to save us. Mahayana Buddhism says that you are that person, that each of you is that person. I had one student named Thich Nhat Hanh who entered the monastery at the age of 6 and at the age of 17 began to study with me. Later he was the first director of the School of Youth for Social Service, where he directed thousands of young people working during the war in Vietnam, rebuilding villages that were destroyed and resettling tens of thousands of refugees fleeing the war zone. He was killed in an accident. I was in Copenhagen when I heard of the death of my student. He was a very gentle monk, very brave. When he was a novice, 6 or 7 years old, he saw people come to the temple and bring cakes and bananas to offer to the Buddha. He wanted to know how the Buddha eats bananas, so he waited until everyone went home and the shrine was closed, and then he peered through the door, waiting for the Buddha to reach out his hand, take a banana, peel it, and eat it. He waited and waited, but nothing happened. The Buddha did not seem to eat bananas, unless he realized that someone was spying on him. Thich Nhat Hanh told me several other stories about when he was a young boy. When he discovered that the statue of the Buddha is not the Buddha, he began to ask where the Buddhas are, because it did not seem to him that Buddhas were living among humans. He concluded that Buddhas must not be very nice, because when people became Buddhas, they would leave us to go to faraway countries. To a faraway country. I told him that Buddhas are us. They are made of flesh and bones, not copper or silver or gold. The Buddha statue is just a symbol of the Buddha. In the same way, the American flag is a symbol of America. The American flag is not the American people. The root word Bud means to wake up, to know, to understand. And he or she who wakes up and understands is called a Buddha. It is as simple as that. The capacity to wake up, to understand, and to love is called Buddha nature. When Buddhists say, I take refuge in the Buddha, they are expressing trust in their own capacity of understanding, of becoming awake. The Chinese and the Vietnamese say, I go back and rely on the Buddha in me. Adding in me makes it very clear that you, yourself, are the Buddha. In Buddhism, there are 3 gems: Buddha, the awakened one; Dharma, the way of understanding and loving; and Sangha, the community that lives in harmony and awareness. The 3 are interrelated, and at times it is hard to distinguish one from another. In everyone, there is the capacity to wake up, to understand, and to love. So in ourselves we find Buddha. And we also find Dharma and Sangha. I will explain more about Dharma and Sangha, but first I want to say something about Buddha, the one who develops his or her understanding and loving to the highest degree. In Sanskrit, understanding is prajna, and loving is karuna and maitri. Understanding and love are not two things, but just one. Suppose your son wakes up one morning and sees that it is already quite late. He decides to wake up his younger sister to give her enough time to eat breakfast before going to school. It happens that she is grouchy, and instead of saying, "Thank you for waking me up," she says, "Shut up, leave me alone," and kicks him. He will probably get angry thinking, "I woke her up nicely. Why did she kick me?" He may want to go to the kitchen and tell you about it, or even kick her back. But then he remembers that during the night, his sister coughed a lot, and he realized that she must be sick. Maybe she has a cold. Maybe that is why she behaves so meanly. He is not angry anymore. At that moment, there is Buddha in him. He understands, he is awake. But you understand, you cannot help. When you understand, you cannot help but love. You cannot get angry. To develop understanding, you have to practice looking at all living beings with the eyes of compassion. When you understand, you love. And when you love, you naturally act in a way that can relieve the suffering of people. Someone who is awake, who knows, who understands, is called a Buddha. Buddha is in everyone, every one of us. We can become awake, understanding, and also loving. I often tell children that if their mother or father is very understanding and loving, working, taking care of the family, smiling, being lovely like a flower, they can say, "Mommy" or "Daddy, you are all Buddha today." 2,500 years ago, there was a person who practiced in a way that his understanding and love became perfected, and everyone in the world recognized this. His name was Siddhartha. When Siddhartha was very young, he began to think that life had a lot of suffering in it, that people do not love each other enough, do not understand each other enough. So he left his home to go to the forest to practice meditating, breathing, and smiling. He became a monk, and he tried to practice in order to develop his awakening, his understanding, and his love to the highest levels. He practiced sitting meditation and walking meditation for several years with 5 friends who were also monks. Although they were intelligent people, they made mistakes. For instance, each day they ate only one piece of fruit, one mango or one guava or one starfruit. Sometimes people exaggerate and say that Siddhartha ate only one sesame seed a day, but I went to the forest in India where he practiced, and I know that is silly, because there are no sesame seeds there. I also saw the Naranjara River, in which he bathed several times, and the Bodhi tree where he sat and became a Buddha. The Bodhi tree I saw is not the same tree. It is the great-great-grandchild of the first Bodhi tree. One day, Siddhartha became so weak that he could not practice, and as he was an intelligent young man, he decided to go to the village and get something to eat, bananas or cake or anything. But as soon as he took 4 or 5 steps, he stumbled and fainted. He lost consciousness because he was too hungry. He would have died, but a milkmaid carrying milk in the village saw him and came over. She found that he was still alive, still breathing, but very weak, and so she took a bowl and poured some milk into his mouth. At first, Siddhartha did not react, but then his lips moved and he began to drink the milk. He drank a whole bowl of milk and he felt much better and slowly sat up. He looked beautiful because Siddhartha was a very, very handsome person. Nowadays, people make statues of him which are not very handsome. Sometimes they are even grouchy, without any smile on his face. But he was a very beautiful person, and the milkmaid thought that he must be the god of the mountain. She kneeled down and was about to worship, but he stretched out his arm to tell her not to, and he told her something. What do you think he must have said to her? He said, "Please give me another bowl of milk." He saw that the milk was doing wonderful things, and he knew that once our body is strong enough, we can succeed in meditation. The young lady was so happy, she poured him another bowl of milk. After that, she inquired about him, and he said that he was a monk, trying to meditate to develop his compassion and his understanding to the highest level so that he could help other people. She asked if there was anything she could do to help, and Siddhartha said each day at noontime, "Can you give me a small bowl of rice? That would help me very much." So from that day on, she brought him some rice wrapped in banana leaves, and sometimes she also brought milk. The 5 other monks Siddhartha had been practicing with despised him and thought him worthless. "Let us go somewhere else to practice. He drinks milk and he eats rice. He has no perseverance. But Siddhartha did very well. Day in and day out, he meditated, and he developed his insight, his understanding, and his compassion very, very quickly as he recovered his health. One day, after taking a swim in the Naranjara River, he had the impression that he only needed one more sitting to come to a total breakthrough, to become a fully enlightened person. When he was about to sit down, still practicing walking meditation, a buffalo boy came by. In India, 2,500 years ago, buffaloes were used to pull the plows, and a buffalo boy's job was to watch them, bathe and take care of them, and cut grass for them to eat. As the buffalo boy came by, he saw Siddhartha walking very peacefully, and he liked him immediately. Sometimes we see someone we like very much, even if we don't know why. The boy wanted to say something, but he was shy. So he came near Siddhartha 3 or 4 times before saying, "Gentlemen, I like you very much." Siddhartha looked at him and said, "I like you also." Encouraged by his response, the boy told him, "I really want to give you something, but I have nothing I can give you." And Siddhartha said, "You do have something that I need. You have very beautiful green grass that you just cut. If you want to, please give me an armful of that grass." The boy was so happy to be able to give him something, and Siddhartha thanked him very much. After the buffalo boy left, Siddhartha spread the grass into a kind of cushion that he could sit on. As he sat down, he made a firm vow. "Until I get true enlightenment, I shall not stand up." With this strong determination, he meditated all night, and when the morning star appeared in the sky, he became a fully enlightened person, a Buddha, with the highest capacity to understand and love. The Buddha stayed at that spot for 2 weeks, smiling and enjoying his breathing. Every day the milkmaid brought him rice, and the buffalo boy also came by to see him. He taught them about understanding, loving, and being awake. There is a scripture in the Pali Canon called Sutta of Tending Buffaloes, which lists 11 skills a buffalo boy must have, such as recognizing his own buffaloes, making smoke to keep mosquitoes away, taking care of wounds on the body of buffaloes, helping buffaloes cross rivers, and finding places with enough grass and water to eat. After listing 11 skills, the Buddha tells the monks that meditation is also like this, and he lists 11 parallel skills for monks, recognizing the 5 components of a human being, and so on. Most stories of the life of the Buddha overlook the 2 weeks he stayed near the Bodhi tree, meeting with the milkmaid and the buffalo boy, walking slowly, enjoying themselves. But I am sure it happened this way. Otherwise, how could the Buddha have delivered the Sutta of Tending Buffaloes? In fact, when the buffalo boy grew up, he must have become a disciple of the Buddha, and one day, as he sat in front of the assembly, the Buddha delivered that sutta. After 2 weeks, the Buddha realized he had to get up from his seat under the Bodhi tree and share his understanding and compassion with other people. He told the milkmaid and the buffalo boy, "I am sorry, but I have to leave now. We are so happy together, but I must go and work with the adults." He thought about whom he could share his understanding and compassion with, and he thought for the 5 friends who had practiced with him. He walked an entire day in order to find them, and when he happened upon their camp, they had just finished their afternoon sitting meditation. They sat a lot. They were very thin by now, as you can imagine. One of them saw the Buddha coming and said to the others, "Don't stand up if he comes. Don't go to the gate to welcome him. Don't go and fetch water for him to wash his feet and his hands." He didn't persevere. He ate rice and he drank milk. But when he arrived, he was so attractive and so peaceful that they could not help themselves from offering him water to wash his feet and his hands and giving him a special seat. The Buddha told them, "Friends, I have found a way to develop understanding and loving. Please sit down, I'll teach you." They did not believe at first. They said, "Siddhartha, while we practiced together, you gave up. You drank milk, you ate rice. How is it possible you have become a fully enlightened person? Please tell us. We cannot believe it." The Buddha said, "Friends, have I ever told you a lie?" In fact, he had never lied to anyone, and these 5 friends remembered that. "I have never told you a lie. Now I am not telling you a lie. I have become a fully enlightened person, and I'll be your teacher. Sit down and listen to me." And the 5 of them sat down and listened to the Buddha. He gave his first Dharma talk for adults. If you want to read his words, they are available in a wonderful sutra explaining the basic doctrines of Buddhism: suffering, the causes of suffering, the removal of suffering, and the way to do it. I have read many accounts of the life of the Buddha, and I see him as a person like us. Sometimes artists draw a Buddha in a way that we cannot recognize him as a human being. In fact, he is a human being. I have seen so many Buddha statues, but not many really beautiful and simple ones. If any time you want to draw a picture of Buddha, Please sit down and breathe for 5 or 10 minutes smiling before you pick up the pen to draw Buddha. Then draw a simple Buddha, beautiful but simple, with a smile. And if you can, draw some children sitting with him. Buddha is young, not too grim, not too solemn, with a very light smile on his face. We have to go in this direction, because when we look at the Buddha, we have to like him, just as the buffalo boy and the milkmaid did. When we say, I take refuge in the Buddha, we should also understand that the Buddha takes refuge in me, because without the second part, the first part is not complete. The Buddha needs us for awakening, understanding, and love to be real things and not just concepts. They must be real things that have real effects on life. Whenever I say, I take refuge in the Buddha, I hear, Buddha takes refuge in me. There is a verse from Planting Trees and Other Plants. I entrust myself to earth, earth entrusts herself to me. I entrust myself to Buddha, Buddha entrusts herself to me. I entrust myself to earth is like, I take refuge in the Buddha. I identify myself with the plant. The plant will die or be alive because of the earth. The plant takes refuge in the earth, the soil. But earth entrusts herself to me because each leaf that falls down and decomposes makes the soil richer. We know that the layer of soil that is rich and beautiful has been made by the vegetation. If our earth is green and beautiful, it is because of this vegetation. Therefore, while the vegetation needs the earth also needs the vegetation to express herself as a beautiful planet. So when we say, I entrust myself to earth, I, the plant, have to hear the other version also. Earth entrusts herself to me. I entrust myself to Buddha, Buddha entrusts herself to me. Then it is very clear that the wisdom, the understanding, and the love of Shakyamuni Buddha needs us to be real again in life. Therefore, we have a very important task, to realize awakening, to realize compassion, to realize understanding. We are all Buddhas, because only through us can understanding and love become tangible and effective. Thich Nhat Hanh was killed during his effort to help other people. He was a good Buddhist, he was a good Buddha, because he was able to help tens of thousands of people, victims of the war. Because of him, awakening, understanding, and love were real things. So we can call him a Buddha body in Sanskrit, Buddhakaya. For Buddhism to be real, there must be a Buddhakaya, an embodiment of awakened activity. Otherwise, Buddhism is just a word. Thich Nhat Hanh was a Buddhakaya. Shakyamuni was a Buddhakaya. When we realize awakening, when we are understanding and loving, each of us is a Buddhakaya. The second gem is the Dharma. Dharma is what the Buddha taught. It is a way of understanding and love. How to understand, how to love, how to make understanding and love into real things. Before the Buddha passed away, he said to his students, Dear people, my physical body will not be here tomorrow, but my teaching body will always be here to help. You can consider it as your own teacher, a teacher who never leaves you. That is the birth of Dharmakaya. The Dharma has a body also, the body of the teaching, or the body of the way. As you can see, the meaning of Dharmakaya is quite simple, although people in Mahayana have made it very complicated. Dharmakaya just means the teaching of the Buddha, the way to realize understanding and love. Later it became something like the ontological ground of being. Anything that can help you wake up has Buddha nature. When I am alone and a bird calls me, I entrust to myself, I breathe, and I smile, and sometimes it calls me once more. I smile and I say to the bird, I hear already. Not only sounds, but sights can remind you to return to your true self. In the morning, when you open the window and see the light streaming in, you will recognize it as the voice of the Dharma, and it becomes part of the Dharmakaya. That is why people who are awake see the manifestation of the Dharma in everything. A pebble, a bamboo tree, the cry of a baby, anything can be the voice of the Dharma calling. We should be able to practice like that. One day, a monk came to Tu Trong, the most illustrious teacher of Buddhism in Vietnam in the 13th century, a time when Buddhism was flourishing in Vietnam. The monk asked him, What is the pure, immaculate Dharmakaya? And Tu Trong pointed to the excrement of a horse. That was an irreverent approach to Dharmakaya because people were using the word immaculate to describe it. You cannot use words to describe Dharmakaya. Even though we say that it is immaculate, pure, that does not mean it is separate from things that are impure. Reality, ultimate reality, is free from all adjectives, either pure or impure. So his response was to shake up the mind of the monk, for him to cleanse himself of all these adjectives in order to see into the nature of the Dharmakaya. A teacher is also part of the Dharmakaya because she or he helps us be awake. The way she looks, the way she lives her daily life, the way she deals with people, animals, and plants helps us realize understanding and love in our life. There are many ways of teaching. Teaching by words, teaching by books, teaching by tape recorders. I have a friend who is a Zen teacher in Vietnam, quite well known, but not many people can come and study with him. Therefore, they make tape recordings of his talks, and he has become known as Cassette Monk. He is still in Vietnam. The government just chased him away from his monastery, so he had to go to another place to teach. He is not allowed to preach in Ho Chi Minh City, because if he teaches there, too many people come to hear him, and the government doesn't like that. Even if he does not teach, his being is very helpful to us in being awake, for he is part of the Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya is not just expressed in words and sounds. It can express itself in just being. Sometimes, if we don't do anything, we help more than if we do a lot. We call that non-action. It is like the calm person on a small boat in a storm. That person does not have to do much, just be himself and the situation can change. That is also an aspect of Dharmakaya. Not talking, not teaching, just being. This is true not only of humans, but other species as well. Look at the trees in our yard. An oak tree is an oak tree. That is all it has to do. If an oak tree is less than an oak tree, then we are all in trouble. Therefore, the oak tree is preaching the Dharma. Without doing anything, not serving in the school of youth for social service, not preaching, not even sitting in meditation, the oak tree is very helpful to all of us just by being there. Every time we look at the oak tree, we have confidence. During the summer, we sit under it and we feel cool, relaxed. We know that if the oak tree is not there and all the other trees are not there, we will not have good air to breathe. We also know that in our former lives, we were trees. Maybe we have been an oak tree ourselves. This is not just Buddhist. It is scientific. The human species is a very young species. We appear on Earth only recently. Before that, we were rock, we were gas, we were minerals, and then we were single-celled beings. We were plants, we were trees, and now we have become humans. We have to recall our past existences. This is not difficult. You just sit down and breathe and look, and you can see your past existence. When we shout at the oak tree is not offended. When we praise the oak tree, it does not raise its nose. We can learn the Dharma from the oak tree. Therefore, the oak tree is part of our Dharmakaya. We can learn from everything that is around, that is in us. Even if we are not at meditation center, we can still practice at home, because around us, the Dharma is present. Everything is preaching the Dharma. Each pebble, each leaf, each flower is preaching the Sadharma Pundarika Sutra. The Sangha is a community that lives in harmony and awareness. Sanghayaka is a new Sanskrit term. The Sangha needs a body also. When you are with your family and you practice smiling, breathing, recognizing the Buddha body in yourself and your children, then your family becomes the Sangha. If you have a bell in your home, the bell becomes part of your Sanghakaya, because the bell helps you to practice. If you have a cushion, then the cushion also becomes part of your Sanghakaya. Many things help us practice. The air for breathing. If you have a park or a riverbank near your home, you are very fortunate because you can enjoy practicing walking meditation. You have to discover your Sanghakaya, inviting a friend to come and practice with you. Have tea meditation, sit with you, join you for walking meditation. All those efforts are to establish your Sanghakaya at home. Practice is easier if you have a Sanghakaya. Siddhartha, the Buddha-to-be, while practicing with other people, began to drink milk, and the 5 monks who were with him went away. So he made the Bodhi tree into his Sanghakaya. He made the buffalo boy, the milkmaid, the river, the trees, and the birds around him into his Sanghakaya. There are those in Vietnam who live in re-education camps. They don't have a Sangha, they don't have a Zen center, but they practice. They have to look upon other things as part of their Sanghakaya. I know of people who practice walking meditation in their prison cells. They told me this after they got out of the camp. So while we are lucky, while we are still capable of finding so many elements to set up our Sanghakaya, we should do so. A friend, our own children, our own brother or sister, our house, the trees in our backyard, all of them can be part of our Sanghakaya. Practicing Buddhism, practicing meditation, is for us to be serene and happy, understanding and loving. In that way, we work for the peace and happiness in our family and our society. If we look closely, the 3 gems are actually one. In each of them, the other 2 are already there. In Buddha, there is Buddhahood. There is the Buddha body. In Buddha, there is the Dharma body, because without the Dharma body, he could not have become a Buddha. In the Buddha, there is the Sangha body, because he had breakfast with the Bodhi tree, with the other trees and birds and environment. In a meditation center, we have a Sangha body, Sangha because the way of understanding and compassion is practiced there. Therefore, the Dharma body is present. The way, the teaching is present. But the teaching cannot become real without the life and body of each of us. So the Buddha Kaya is also present. If Buddha and Dharma are not present, it is not a Sangha. Without you, the Buddha is not real. It is just an idea. Without you, the Dharma cannot be practiced. It has to be practiced by someone. Without each of you, the Sangha cannot be. That is why when we say, I take refuge in the Buddha, we also hear, the Buddha takes refuge in me. I take refuge in the Dharma takes refuge in me. I take refuge in the Sangha takes refuge in me. Thank you. That concludes chapter 2 of Being Peace. If you'd like to watch more of these videos, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching Dawn Vibes Yoga. May you always be happy and free.